Good evening, hockey fans. Welcome on into the neutral zone. The regular season is underway. Our first week is in the books. We've got 8 games on tap tonight. Lots to be going through, especially as we've got one last division to talk about in the previews. So we will tie a bow on that, as well as talk about the week in hockey that was. Who are some of the teams we liked? Who are some of the players we liked? What have we thought about the action so far? And then we'll be debuting a, hopefully, weekly regular segment on the show. Tonight we are debuting studs and duds at the end of the program. So stay tuned for that to see who Zach and I both nominate this week. All that, plus our usual band of silliness as we make our way through the hockey world. You have found your way into the neutral zone on IE Sports Radio. Let's go. And once again, hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome in to the neutral zone here on IE Sports Radio. Adam Karnick back with you after a couple of weeks off. Zach Puplis is here too. We are ready to rock and roll tonight. Zach, how are you doing, man?
Fantastic. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. A couple weeks, unfortunately, away from the show. I was doing a concert, so I had rehearsal and then shows and things like that to do. But I wanted to thank you. You did an excellent job the last couple of weeks running the ship solo. So thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. How did it go? How did your concert go?
Oh man, so it was with the LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra in LaPorte, Indiana, and it was a group of children's concerts, so educational for elementary school kids to come and get excited about music. And we played 3 concerts, over 5,000 kids in those 3 concerts, so it was very well attended and a lot of fun. A lot of fun with the kids. It was very enjoyable.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the opportunity to do it, and good people. I've played with LaPorte several times. It's a really good group. So a lot of fun. A lot of fun overall.
Oh, awesome.
All right. So now we get back into the fun hockey world, the fun hockey talk. So you did the Central Division last week. So we've got the Pacific Division to go through and discuss a little bit. As we go through, also, we've had now basically a week's worth of games to go through and dissect and go through. Anybody jump out at you right out of the gate, Zach, as the season is now underway?
I would say, I'm probably going to, it might sound like a cop-out, but Connor McDavid, video game numbers, still doing it. The Battle of Alberta was amazing Saturday.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. That was an excellent game. I've been impressed, and we'll get into this a little bit more with our new segment to tie a bow on the show, the Studs and Duds segment. We'll explain that a little bit more later on. But I've been impressed with Pittsburgh out of the gate. getting 12 goals in their first 2 games. That was impressive to me to kick off the season. So,
nice.
But yeah, all kinds of good stuff going on. We got some barn burners tonight. I'm taking a quick look. There's 8 games going on tonight. We've got. Have you seen this Boston-Ottawa score, Zach?
I'm looking at it right now. It's the end of the second, and Ottawa's leading 6-5.
6-5. How many? Did they just not play the goalies tonight? Looking through, my goodness.
It's like nobody's got any hat tricks or anything yet, but it looks like almost everybody on the team's going to be able to score.
Man, we've had 3 separate 3-goal rallies in this. Ottawa scored the first 3 to open the game. Then Boston scored the next 3, tied it up. Then Ottawa scored 3 more again. And now Boston has scored the last 2. That's how we're at 6-5. And we've still got a period to go. My gosh, looking at these numbers. And it's not like they've put up a crazy number of shots either. Ottawa's at a respectable 25 shots through 2 periods. Boston's at 23. So trying to do quick math here, that's 48 shots. They're shooting almost 25%. That's insane. What's that?
You want to know what the over-under was?
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to take a guess first?
5.5?
Pretty dang close. 6.
They hammered that. Man, they had that. Boy, they almost had that covered in the first period.
I mean, I was going to have that alone.
Yeah, Ottawa does have it alone. My goodness. Yeah, they're both going to get it alone here. My gosh.
Yeah.
So we've got that barn burner going on. And then we've got 3 other 2-2 games. And then the Devils and the Ducks, it's 3-2 Devils as they're just starting the third period. So lots of scoring tonight. And then Sabres, Oilers, and Knights, Flames is just getting underway. As we say good evening to Taryn and Kale hanging out with us in the chat room. Also, good evening, guys. Hope you're doing well. Kale's getting ready to discuss the Golden Knights coming up right after us on Sin City Sports. And Taryn is lamenting his choice in hockey teams, that he's still rooting for the Ducks.
Oh, yeah.
That's okay, Taryn. You could be a Coyotes fan. It's okay. Okay, that's my one. That's my one, and then I'm going to back off. I don't want to pick on him too much.
Well, the Eastern Conference Coyotes are actually doing really well tonight. I mean, they're 0-2 on the season so far, but the Senators are just taking it right in stride with Boston.
Yeah. Poor Taryn. Make the pain stop. I just want the Ducks to win and make the playoffs.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Taryn. And
you asked if we were surprised by certain team starts. I would say Vegas, looks like they might be returning to form. They're 3-0 on the season. So is Dallas from, maybe returning to their Stanley Cup run form from a couple years back from the bubble.
Yes, absolutely. So we've got good things going on there. Now, I know I'm looking at Taryn specifically about the Ducks, but if I remember right, Kale, while he covers the Golden Knights, he's also a recovering Ducks fan too. So I'm sorry, both of you guys, that your Ducks are being the Ducks. Unfortunately, there's not a good way to sugarcoat it. Unfortunately, the Ducks are the Ducks. Unfortunately, that's a good way to segue into our final division preview a little bit here, because they are part of the Pacific Division, and that was the one division that we hadn't quite gotten to yet when everything got crazy with schedules. Who would you like to start with, Zach?
Well, I guess the one last thought on another team off to a hot start. My Red Wings they're 2-0 so far.
Yeah, come from behind against the Devils the other night, right?
Yeah, and then an overtime loss to LA, looks like, I think.
Yeah, that was last night, if I remember correctly. There were a lot of games last night. Twitter kept me up very late.
New Jersey, and they lost to LA last night overtime.
But that was even the overtime loss for Detroit. They were down late in the third period, so they absolutely salvaged a point out of that situation. So that was a job very well done. Very well done by Detroit. There. That was surprisingly difficult to say. Apparently, I'm tongue-tied tonight.
Well, you had a couple weeks off. You're rusty. I get
it. yeah. We'll go with that. Yeah, because I've just taken 2 weeks off from talking entirely. Yeah, we'll just go with that.
See, I got your back.
There we go.
Ooh, man.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, before we get into the Pacific, I guess, yeah, then there's my Blackhawks. The less we say about them, the better.
Oh.
Well, they started on the West Coast. They started Avalanche, and then Vegas, yikes. Then they had the Sharks, which they actually came from behind and beat the Sharks. So they have 2 points on the season. Hooray!
Right.
We're technically ahead of the Coyotes. Barely.
Yeah. Yay!
Our goal differential is better. It's the only reason we're ahead of them. We're at a -1, whereas Arizona's at a -5.
Yeah. Crazy.
All right, but the Pacific Division, which, man, on the whole, looks really, really, really strong. I like the Pacific overall as we sit here insanely early in the season. We have Vegas on top with 3 wins. Calgary right behind them, yet to lose, but they've only played twice. The Kings have already played 4 games, so they've got 4 points, 2-2-0. Seattle, 3 points in 4 games for the Kraken. Hey, they're kind of our adopted team.
Mm-hmm.
Edmonton's 1-1-0. And we get to the bottom 3 teams in the division. Anaheim, Vancouver, and the Sharks. 1 win between them. It is Anaheim, though, that's got the win of the bottom 3 of the Pacific. So, yeah, I'm not even going to try to put a cherry on that anymore. Ducks 1-2-0. Canucks 0-3-0. San Jose 0-4-0. Where would you like to start, Zach?
I was going to say, there you go, Terry. Always look on the bright side of life. Let's start with Edmonton.
Fire away. I got to remind myself of how I predicted this division to finish. So you start us off with Edmonton.
Sure, and I'm right there with you. I mean, it does seem like a really decent division. Of the 8 teams, let's see. So last year we had 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 5 teams with 90 points or more. Edmonton, Calgary, Vegas, LA, and Vancouver. So Edmonton ended the season last year 49, 27, and 6 with 104 points. Goals for 290, goals against 252. They keep their core together. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Vander Kane stuck with them after being picked up after his, COVID, not wanting to take the vaccine and all that. Got him kicked out of the Sharks. So yeah, I think they're looking for another exciting year. I mean, I think, there's this window that they've got, window of opportunity is only going to be open for so long for them to win a cup with all those good players. So I think the time is now or never, the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely there with Edmonton. And I was discussing this, even though I wasn't on Neutral Zone the last couple of weeks, that did not stop me from talking hockey on IE Sports Radio. Matthew Owens from USRN, I had him on as a guest last week on Chi-Town Weekly, and we were talking about hockey a little bit to close out the show. My concern, and he shared this with me too, my biggest concern for Edmonton is still in net. I feel like they did not do enough to improve their goalie situation. I feel like if they have an Achilles heel, it's in net. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'd say so. I had an article all about like one lingering question for every team. So their question for Edmonton was, what will the Oilers do to become cap compliant? Well, let's start here. Pending RFA, Ryan McLeod still needs a new contract. Couple that with the fact that after Baum and Mike Smith combined $6.367 million cap hit are on injured reserve. Then there's also the consideration that the Oilers have $750,000 in dead cap space from Milan Lucic contract, in addition to a combined $3.416 million that remains on the books from James Neal and Andre Sekera's buyouts. Figuring out how to navigate these items, along with other details, is what Oilers GM Ken Holland and his front office staff must navigate in their tracks to become cap compliant. Cap friendly projects the Oilers are $6.781 million over the cap. There are numerous avenues the Oilers could pursue in their plan to become compliant. Some of the hypotheticals include electing to move Baum and Smith to long-term injured reserve, addressing a limited roster, or attempting to shed salary through trades, among other options.
Yeah, looking at the Oilers in net, so they brought in Jack Campbell, previously from Toronto, to take over at net. 49 games a year ago, but still his save percentage isn't elite. He's not an elite goaltender. And behind him, they've got a 23-year-old kid, Stuart Skinner. So this really does feel like, it still feels like their biggest weakness is still their biggest weakness. They're going to be really good, Edmonton, but if they're going to be beaten, it's going to be because their goalie lets them down. I think that's the easy narrative as we get started. Who should we do next out of the Pacific Division?
To second that, I mean, you look at their game, the Battle of Edmonton. They lost 4-3, and that's just it. It's like, okay, without a good goaltender, you're going to have to win every single game. It's always going to be a barn burner, having to win them 4-3, 5-6-5, etc.
Yeah.
So it could be like a microcosm of how their whole season could go.
Yep, exactly. All right, who should we do next?
You can go ahead and pick.
Let's talk about Seattle, our adopted team, our adopted sons, if we will, the Seattle Kraken. Coming off of their inaugural year, they were 27-49-6. They were 8th in the division. Obviously, they missed the playoffs. They lose Victor Rask from a season ago, but they add Shane Wright, Andre Burakovsky, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Justin Schultz, and Martin Jones. Obviously, when you're an expansion team, there's always excitement. There's always a honeymoon there. You can go out there and almost fall flat on your face every night, and it's still hey, we're here, we exist, this is fun, and this is exciting. And they didn't fall on their face. Obviously, they didn't meet the lofty expectations of Vegas, the last expansion team, but they still were a good team overall as an expansion franchise. It looks like, though, they want to take a little bit of a push here. They want to try and be a little bit more serious of a team. You know, bringing guys like Burakovsky and Bjorkstrand, top 6 forwards. This feels a little bit like a team that could be trying to make a push a little bit. Do you think it's too early for Seattle? Do you think they can, or do you think they can make some noise in this division, you think?
I think they can make some noise this early. You make a good point that, like, they didn't live up to Vegas's expectations the way, you know, they made the Cup final their first year, but you know, in comparison to the other most recent expansion teams, you know, Minnesota and I almost said it like a Canadian, Minnesota and Columbus.
Don't you know?
How do they do compared to them, do you think?
I think Seattle, as an expansion team, did very well for itself a season ago. You know, 27 wins overall. What was that record? 27, 49, and 6. You know, that's 60 points on the year. That's a very respectable showing. Heck, I don't think my Blackhawks are going to have that many points this season, to be honest. So that's a very respectable showing from them a season ago. I wonder, as they get into this season, if they aren't trying to artificially accelerate a little too much, get there a little too soon, which could hurt them in the long run. And I don't know that they're ready to kind of punch through the top of this division. I don't know that they're ready to run with Edmonton, Calgary, some of the other heavy hitters in this division just yet. It feels too soon to me for them.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought interesting, you know, talking about the risk and reward of trying to, you know, have success too soon versus, you know, building a steady culture and having a, you know, developing a core in your team. Like their captain, Mark Giordano, like they traded him last year. And I was like, okay, like I understand you might want, you know, pieces to help you grow with, you know, players that are going to be younger and they're going to develop and so on, prospects, all that. But at the same time, like if you're trying to build a culture and a core of your team, like wouldn't you want to keep the captain?
Yeah. That's of all the guys to move, you'd figure if anybody's safe on that roster, it would be the captain. Apparently not.
I mean, well, like, but then again, look at Buffalo and Jack Eichel was the captain too. Like,
yeah, well, that was a weird situation there with those two teams, with those two parties. That was just,
yeah, you're right.
That was weird. So, but yeah, so that's Seattle. Who would you like to do next? Should we spare Taryn his misery and do his Ducks?
Yeah. You want to take that one on? I'll grab the next one?
Yeah, I've got him up here. So the Ducks a year ago, 31, 37, 14. They were 7th in the Pacific. Not great by any means. They missed the playoffs. Ryan Getzlaf is no longer on the team. Long-time Duck, no longer there. Some other noticeable subtractions: Sam Steele, Sonny Milano, Zach Aston Reese, Andre Suster, Vinny Lettieri are all gone, but they brought in some new faces: John Klingberg, Ryan Strome, Frank Vatrano, Dmitry Kulikov, and Olli Jolevi. I know I got that name wrong. So with Captain Getzlaf retiring. What do? Well, you go in and you bring in Ryan Strome. He had a career high in goals a season ago. Maybe he can give them a little bit of a spark. Not to start the season, apparently, but we'll get there. Frank Vetrano also comes in, trying to help the top six a little bit. He was part of the Rangers' run to the East Final last year. They've still got some young guys. Troy Terry is very exciting to watch. Trevor Zegras is, again, very fun and exciting to watch. Some young talent there. The flip side, of course, they don't have much in goalie. John Gibson is clearly on the decline at this point in his career. He's not doing very well saving the puck. Anthony Stolarz is coming off of 28 games played, but he never won 2 starts in a row last year. So they need some help there in goal, in net, and just overall, they've still got some cash things that they need to work out. Anaheim, it still to me feels like is a young team that is rebuilding, still a ways away yet, that this season is still going to be about building for the future rather than for right now. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would say so.
You know, just looking at the Ducks, they're young. They're very young. You know, Troy Terry, Zegras, and Zegras. They've got some young guys, some young pieces, but they've got a long ways to go to try and be consistent and be competitive. Especially, again, this division is it's hard. It's a hard division to be in this year in the Pacific. They're really good. It's just a really good division overall.
Yeah. I feel like that's what we said about the Atlantic.
Yeah, the coasts are really strong this year. The Pacific and the Atlantic. It's those two divisions in the middle that got to step it up and figure it out.
Right, yeah.
Of course, we say that, and I think I still wouldn't be surprised if, somebody out of the Metro winds up making it all the way to the Cup final. So take it all with a grain of salt, I suppose.
Well, there's a difference between the division being top heavy and being well rounded. Having the majority of their team in playoff contention.
That's true. That's very true. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
All right. Who do we like next? As I'm looking at the time and seeing, we got to keep this moving.
Yeah, I just realized that too. Let's go Calgary. So Calgary loses Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk, after a season where they were 50, 21, and 11 with 111 points. Goals for 293 and goals against 208. So they lose those 2 stars. They bring in Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, and Nazem Kadri. Looks like Nazem Kadri is already...
Nazem Kadri?
Nazem Kadri, yes. Apparently I'm dyslexic.
That's his brother.
They're already earning dividends from him because he already he did really well in the Battle of Alberta over the weekend in his new home. But yeah, so I guess that's going to be the biggest question throughout the whole year is that are they think about it as a scale, like the guys that they lost versus the guys that they bring in, and you just hope that the guys that they brought in can have just as much production as the guys they lost.
Yeah, when it was announced that Gaudreau was going to Columbus, my thought was, I might have been too quick to say that Calgary's going to be the team to watch out for in the West. Oh boy. But then they turn around and you're just going to get Huberdeau and Kadri? Oh, well, never mind then. We're fine. We're all good. All is well here. Nothing, different names on the back, but the production should be very similar out of them as we get into the season proper. And so far, I'd say that's, at least through the first week, that has played itself out.
I'm right there with you.
You do have to wonder with them, just will they be able to sustain it throughout the season? Can they create enough chemistry to withstand the season, especially with a team like Edmonton that they have to go up against, which that core has been together for so long. Can Calgary make that same chemistry kind of on the fly? You know what I mean? Am I making sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, because like you said about Edmonton, that core's been together forever, and I'm sure they're practically psychic. Like they can tell exactly where the guy's going to be, every single moment. And Calgary just doesn't have that anymore. So they have to be able to, like you said, just create it on the fly.
Yeah. Edmonton can just almost skate out there with their eyes closed and they know where everybody's going to be, whereas Calgary's got to develop that. All right, Taryn asked about the Kings, so let's bring them up next. The Los Angeles Kings, last year, 43, 31, and 8. Finished third in the division. They made it into the playoffs and took Edmonton the distance. It was a 7-game series. It looked like the Kings might upset Edmonton at one point. They've lost Dustin Brown, Ali Mata, Andreas Athanasiou. They bring in Kevin Fiala. I like the Kings. They're on the rise. It seems like they may have caught lightning in a bottle last year a little bit, but now it feels like they won't have to do that this year, if that makes sense. Jonathan Quick had an outstanding year a season ago in net, a resurgence, a renaissance, if you will. If he can prove that was
12,
legit.
12 and 14.
What? I'm sorry, say that again?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He had a renaissance back to, his Stanley Cup forms in the 2012 and 2014 seasons.
Yeah, so if he can maintain that, and you've got some of the young pieces that they have there on the team, pulling up the Kings roster real fast. But if they can maintain some of that and get some of their younger guys to continue to grow, and with additions with guys like Kevin Fiala, but guys like Victor Arvidsson, who's 29, he's in the prime of his career right now. Brendan Lemieux, 26, he's just entering his prime. And then some of the crazy young guys like Quentin Byfield, who's 20, it feels like this is a team that might be getting ready to be a handful in this division again. And you still guys like Anze Kopitar, who's been there long enough to help these young kids along. They've got a good mix of the right amount of veterans to help these young, talented kids who took a big step last year make the next step this year.
Yep.
What are you thinking for the Kings this season?
I wouldn't be surprised if they'd be able to make it back to the playoffs again, and I think anything short of that's going to be a disappointment.
Yeah, I like the Kings for a little bit of a run too. Do they get past the first round?
Oh man, that I don't know. Like we said, this division is so stacked. I'm going to say no. I think they'll probably make the playoffs, but I don't think they'll get past Calgary or Edmonton or whoever.
Yeah, might be a little bit much yet.
What that?
Might be a little bit much yet.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Now we've got two teams that we know really aren't going much anywhere. So we'll do them real fast. The Sharks and the Canucks. Do we think they're going to be anything this year?
I call dibs on the Sharks.
Go for it.
They're 32, 37, and 13. They had 77 points, 214 goals for, and 264 against. We talk about having a championship window with with Edmonton, and I feel like that championship window is now behind the Sharks. When they went and they made the cut back in 16, that was their chance. But you see all these experienced veterans that they had all leaving to go elsewhere to try to chase a cup. Joe Thornton, Burns, etc.
Yeah. They're old on defense. They're old defensively, but at the same time, they're building. They got a first-year GM. They're hitting a restart here with this team. It feels like they're gonna be building for a little while. I think if you're the Canucks, they're gonna be. As I was looking at names and going, wait a minute, those aren't Canucks players. Aha, I had the wrong roster up.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, Ryan Strome, he's a Duck. Oh yeah, he is a Duck. But looking through at the defense here, you've got Luke Shen, who's 32, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, 31. I wouldn't be surprised if Ekman-Larsson gets traded at some point this season. I'd have to look at his contract to see how easy that would be to move. But they're rebuilding. They are what they are for this year.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Canucks as well. Rebuilding. Just rebuilding. Trying to make things work. Trying to get things going in a new situation. They're certainly not going to be. They don't have to worry about losing in the Cup final anytime soon if you're the Canucks, because they're just not going to get there. Bruce Boudreau taking over on the bench. We'll see what that does. Another retread coaching hire there in the NHL.
Uh-huh.
They did get JT Miller on an 8-year deal, so they've got some guys there, but it feels like they're going to be a ways yet. Then let's finish this up. Let's see. We should just have Vegas left, right?
Correcto mundo.
All right. Tell us about the Vegas Golden Knights.
Vegas was 43, 31, and 8 with 94 points. They're 266 goals for, 248 goals against. This is only their sixth year of existence. I think this season that just started is their sixth year. So out of 5 seasons, they've made the playoffs in 4 of them. This is the first year that they missed. They probably got to go tinker around and see what they can tweak and to get some more offense and better defense and see if they can make a run of the playoffs again this year. I know they lost some key contributors, and the names are blanking right now. Oh, Pacioretty. Didn't he go to Carolina?
Yes. They, air quotes here, traded him to Carolina. They didn't get anything back.
So this is like the Alex DeBrincat trade.
They gave him to Carolina and said, we can't afford him. Please take him. We'll get back to you on what we want in return, but please take him.
So it's like Alex DeBrincat for you guys in Ottawa? Not to throw salt in the wound, but...
Kind of. The Blackhawks could have afforded him. They just chose to not.
I think it was like a steal because they didn't get much in return.
Right. Oh, yeah, they just got draft picks for him. But Vegas didn't even get that. They literally got nothing. They just gave him to Carolina.
Oh, my gosh. Seriously?
Because,
that's dumb.
yeah, well, it was cap problems, salary cap problems, because the cap only went up $1 million. Now, we did, speaking of that, we did get news tonight. Long story short, it's looking like the salary cap should bump up next year by $4 million, which is higher than they projected. Don't want to get into too much of the specifics of it. Suffice to say, the league should clear enough money this year that they'll be able to bump the salary cap up by $4 million next year, which will help everybody. But yeah, losing Max Pacioretty, but at the same time, he's injured, so that could help Vegas in this situation, actually, because it allows them to play some other people and kind of fortify themselves a little bit into this season.
Yeah, I mean, you still got a lot of big, well-known players. William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault. This is Jack Eichel's first full season there. William Carrier, Phil Kessel, like we talked about from the Ducks. Mark Stone, Alex Pietrangelo from St. Louis, and White Cloud's kind of made a name for himself too.
Yep, and new head coach Bruce Cassidy. 2 years ago,
another retread.
Another retread. But 2 years ago, he was the NHL's coach of the year, so a justifiable retread.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, Jack Eichel is healthy.
Yep.
So, and go figure, you look at the start of the season, they're 3-0-0 to start the year.
Yep.
So, all good things going there. So, real fast.
I look back at the Jack Eichel trade last year, and I think that was definitely a good move. He gets a fresh start. They're willing to go let him get the surgery he wants to get. And Buffalo can get out of that quagmire as well.
Yeah. All right, so real quick, how do you see the Pacific Division finishing?
I see Edmonton, Calgary, Vegas, LA, Vancouver, Seattle, San Jose, and Anaheim. Sorry, Karen.
Did you write that down before or after I sent you my list?
I did it independently.
Wow. Because we're almost identical. I went with Calgary instead of Edmonton, but I have Edmonton 2. Then Vegas, the Kings, Vancouver, Seattle, Anaheim, and then San Jose.
Oh, wow. So we just traded 1 and 2 and 7 and 8, really.
Yep. The middle is exactly the same.
Go figure.
Go figure. It's like we do a show together or something.
Oh, my gosh.
I know, right? All right. So from there, we're going to real quick, we'll get everybody up to date on the scores because we do have some finals. And then we have our new segment to debut. So to transition here, to get everybody caught up, we have a couple of finals. In overtime in Columbus, it was the Blue Jackets 4 and the Canucks 3. So the Canucks do get their first point of the season at least. Still looking for that first win. The overtime game-winning goal went to Vladislav Gavrikov, the defenseman for the Columbus Blue Jackets, his first goal of the year. Johnny Gaudreau got his second goal of the year in the third period to tie the game at 3 for the Blue Jackets. So a little bit of a comeback win for the Blue Jackets. And then also going final, The New Jersey Devils got their first win of the season, 4-2 over the Anaheim Ducks.
Sorry, Karen.
And to make it even worse, Taryn, the Ducks were up 2-0 at the end of one. Silverberg had scored twice in the first period. His first 2 goals for Jacob Silverberg. It wasn't good enough. Dougie Hamilton officially gets the game winner in the just 30 seconds into the third period. His second goal of the season was the game winner there. I don't think he had any other points. Other guys scoring. You had Andre Palat scored his first goal of the season, and you had Jack Hughes get a couple of assists for the Devils. So we've got a couple of finals. The Senators are now up 7-5 on the Bruins. Flyers have beaten the Lightning 3-2. So we've got another final there. Islanders are up 4-2 on the Sharks. Golden Knights are up 2-0 on Calgary, end of one. So we've got some scores going in there, but it is time, as I'm looking at the clock, and we've got Sin City Sports coming up right after us, so we don't want to take up too much time here for Kale. We have a new segment to debut. We are calling it Studs and Duds. So to set the framework for you here, in hockey, of course, at the end of every game, you have the 3 stars of the game. You also then, it gets extrapolated out to the stars of the month. Sometimes they even do the stars of the week, so on and so forth. But there's always 3. So in keeping with that theme, we wanted to come up here with, at the Neutral Zone, our own stars or studs of the week. But we also wanted to highlight the other end of the spectrum too, hence the duds. Those are the 3 uninspiring players of the week. Now, in the NHL, it's always players. We wanted to take a little bit more broad look at it. For us, it doesn't have to be players. It could be teams. It could be a particular part of a team. It could be the entire team. It could be whatever we want it to be. And I have my list. Zach has his list. We do them independently. So we could wind up with some crossover, or we could wind up with 12 completely unique things. So to take it away, Zach, why don't you kick us off? Do you want to start with your studs or your duds?
Let's start off positively. Go with studs.
All right. Who are your studs of the week?
Oh, man. I'm going to go Connor McDavid and Malcolm Cosby in his new home for the great game they put on in the Battle of Alberta. Calgary won it 4-3 on Saturday, but each had a goal in that game. And then, let's see, I'm going to do some home cooking here, and David Perron in his new home with my Red Wings. He got 2 goals in that loss to the LA Kings 4-5. And then I'm going to have an honorable mention to Claude Giroux in the game tonight. He got at least a goal in the game against Boston, that barn burner. We've been paying attention to.
All right, so you've got your 3 studs. A very nice, a strong debut. Good job, Zach.
Thank you.
All right. And then I'm going to start the other way. I will give you my duds first.
Okay.
Starting with, they won tonight, but the New Jersey Devils as a team, just as a team, the New Jersey Devils, starting off, now this was before tonight, they had lost their first 3 games. They were already chanting, "Fire Lindy," looking to fire their head coach 3 games into the season. started off with back-to-back 5-2 losses, including they had leads, I believe, in one of them, and then lost to Detroit, coming off the second of a back-to-back for Detroit in that one. So the New Jersey Devils, unfortunately, are on my duds list to start things off. Gonna go with another... Yeah, Gonna go with another team for duds. I'm gonna notice a theme here with my duds to start off. The Vancouver Canucks. Not only did they start off winless, they finally got a point tonight, at least, but still winless on the season. They blew leads in each of their first 2 games. They had the lead going into the third period in each of their first 2 games and came away with no points.
Ouch, that's rough.
That is a rough way to start the year. So we've got another dud there. And then finally, Taryn, I'm sorry. We've been picking on him a lot tonight. I promise we'll go back to picking on the Coyotes later. But the Anaheim Ducks, just a rough start to the season for the Anaheim Ducks. Looking at them. Now, they did win tonight. They did pick things up and do a little bit better. But that was a rough... they lost tonight. They did win that first game. They won that first game against the Kraken, but then losing to the Devils tonight. And they did not have a good time in New York. They played the Islanders and the Rangers 2 games in a row. 7-1 against the Islanders, and then 6-4 against the Rangers to give up 13 goals in 2 games. Ouch. They gave up a touchdown against the Islanders. The Islanders scored more touchdowns than some NFL teams have recently. Yikes.
The Bears.
Hey, we scored 1. We used up our allotment. We used up the entire Thursday night allotment in that 1 game.
Oh, gosh.
So my 3 duds for this week, all teams, Vancouver, Anaheim, and I just blanked on my first one.
Devils.
Thank you. Devils. There we go. So Devils, Ducks, and Canucks were my first duds. Zach, who are your duds for this week?
Oh, well, we told Karen we'd go back to picking on the Coyotes, and so here we go. Coyotes lose to the Bruins on Saturday, 6-3, in their 19th straight loss in the series. Yeah.
19 straight losses?
Then Minnesota lost to barn burner, heartbreaker to LA on Saturday, 7-6. They are still winless on the season so far. They are 0-3. And lastly, Tampa Bay is off to a rough start. Up until last year, the 2-10 defending champs. They are 1-2 on the season so far, including a 6-3 loss to Pittsburgh on Saturday.
Oof, some rough duds for sure. All right, and then I'll round things out with my 3 studs, and then we will get out of here so that Cale Henderson can tell us all about everything going on with Sin City Sports tonight. My studs, I'm going to start off with the Colorado Avalanche. They started off their cup defense with an outstanding pregame ceremony, even though it did delay the start of the game by a half hour. That made for a late night.
Hockey time.
Oh, they were operating exclusively on hockey time in that game. The game was supposed to start at 9:30 Eastern. They didn't start the pregame celebration until 9:45. It was 10:15 before they dropped the puck. They were exclusively on Hockey Time. But it was a good celebration. It was worth it. Then Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby last week got to celebrate being the most recent Pittsburgh Penguin Iron Man. He has now played for more consecutive games with the Penguins without it being interrupted than any other player in Pittsburgh Penguin history. So good on Sidney Crosby. And oh yeah, the team's kicking butt and taking names at least to start the season. And then my final stud, I had it and then I lost it. What was I going to go with for my third? I seriously had it and then I lost it. It's just poof, gone. Well, we'll do a cop-out. The entire league. Hockey is back. We are operational, fully forming. It's just good to have the NHL back.
I think that calls for a buckle.
And with that, we sound the horn. Thank you to everybody for listening in on this as we had some fun. Zach, this was fun to do this tonight. I should not take 2-week breaks on this anymore.
Right.
Thank you to Larry B for all the hard work you do here at IE Sports Radio to keep things moving, keep this operation running for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you to Taryn. Thank you to Kale for hanging out with us in the chat room tonight. I'm sorry we picked so heavily on your Ducks tonight. I promise we'll do less of that next week. Kale is coming up right after us with Sin City Sports, breaking down all things happening in Las Vegas. The Golden Knights are hot. You want to stick around and listen to that for sure. Until next week, he is Zach, Ian, Adam. You follow us on Twitter at IESR Neutral Zone. You follow me at Adam_Karnick. Zach is at The Pupless. We are IE Sports Radio at IE Sports Radio on all the social platforms. Follow along with us. We have a lot of fun. Until next week, everybody stay healthy, stay good, and of course, stay out of the penalty box. We'll see you next week, everybody.